Life Beyond Labels is a Quiet Loud Studios production, proudly featured on Sports E Media. Discover more at quietloudstudios.com. Background music created by Yo Crane. Hello, and welcome back to the Life Beyond Labels podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey O'Connor, and I'm so grateful that you're here. I want you to take a moment to think about where you are right now. Take a moment to notice your surroundings. How do you feel right now? We all get caught up in the rush of life. We all fall into the fast pace and the days that just merge together. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. I know I struggle to stay present either when I'm busy or I'm lonely and I want to distract myself in order to avoid realizing that maybe I'm not so busy. But we all have moments of looking back and wondering, where did the time go? Did I enjoy that moment as much as I could have? Why didn't I slow down? And I'm not an expert, but I do think I'm exceptionally good at staying present because I've found practices that have really helped me to slow down the moments when I'm in them. And I have times too where I look back and I ask myself, why was I in such a rush? Now that a moment has passed and it's just a memory, I ache to have it back. I drive myself crazy wishing that I had just taken in a moment a little longer. But these 8 practices that I really want to share with you have helped me in not having some of that regret and some of that longing for wishing I was more present because I was able to slow down moments as they were happening. And so, in sharing them with you in the midst of our responsibilities, deadlines, worries, I hope that we can all help each other to just be a little bit more present and grounded. So, number one is to look down at your feet or your hands. There's a book by Scott O'Neill called Be Where Your Feet Are. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I've heard this phrase before. And in planning this episode, I really wanted to make sure that I cited the right person who may have originated the phrase. So when I Googled it, I learned that it's actually a book by Scott O'Neill. So I apologize because I have not read it yet, but I'm sure it's great. And I practice being where my feet are by literally looking down at my feet. When I'm on a plane, most of the time, that's when I want time to pass by fast and it seems to go exponentially slower than normal. And we're in the clouds and my head's in the clouds and I don't really like flying, so I don't want to be present, but I try to just look down at my feet and be in the moment of being in between places, resisting the urge to distract myself. There's nothing special about the moment, but I just bring my attention to where my feet are in any moment. In school, when I'm in class and my mind is running a million directions, I'm thinking about the assignments I need to get done. What do I actually want to do when I graduate? What am I going to have for dinner? And I look down at my feet just to allow my mind to join exactly where my body is in the present moment and focus on what's in front of me. So notice where your feet are right now. I also sometimes do this by looking down at my hands. So my nanny, my grandmother on my mom's side, used to come with me to my brother's concerts because he sang in high school. And I just remember vividly sitting in the seats of the auditorium, and she was so cute. She would reach over and hold my hand, and I would just look down at her holding my hand, at her beautiful jewelry, at my unpainted nails, and take in this moment and remembering how it feels to be 17, nervously daydreaming about what my future would look like while clinging to the moment right in front of me, sitting in an auditorium listening to music with my nanny. And that memory is less of a blur because I remember exactly where I was and how I felt because I took the time to notice. Number two is noticing people's voices when they speak. When you're in a conversation with someone, take the time to really listen to their voice. Notice their inflection. Notice their tone. My grandma Marina on my dad's side, she passed away in September 2023. And it was well known in our family that she loved to talk. Like, you could call her and put yourself on mute, and she would tell you stories and make herself laugh. And she is just this vibrant, hilarious, but also deeply insightful woman. My dad's side of the family is very Italian, from Philadelphia, big family. Anyway, she loved to talk. And I would call her. And of course, we were in different phases of life, right? I was living this fast pace softball training, school. I'm in my mid teens and then my 20s, whatever. And she has things going on, but she's at a slower pace. And she treated our calls like the highlight of her day. And I remember sometimes I would call or she would call. And towards the middle of the call, like 30 or 40 minutes into it, I would have to go or I would start thinking about things that I needed to get done. And so my mind would just start to wander. Or sometimes I found myself on speakerphone and texting someone back or checking an email. And the point is, I would get distracted while I was still on the phone. And a few years before she passed, I thought I'm going to make a resolution to stop taking phone calls for granted. Every moment that I get to listen to the voice of someone that I love on the other end of the phone, I'm going to treasure it. Listening to my grandma, especially, was a treasure. And so we would be on the phone and I would put her on speaker and I would just look at her name on my phone. And I have such clear memories of stopping and looking at her name, listening to her voice, being thankful that she was on the other end today. And I would take myself out of all the things I needed to do and just decide if I was choosing to either answer the phone or give her a call, because both of those were a choice, she deserved my full attention. I'm going to make sure that she gets the most fully present version of me on the phone. And sometimes I still had to say, Grandma, I love you, but I really have to go. But even just in taking a few minutes or a few moments to listen to her voice and notice it gifted me moments that I treasure now more than anything. And of course, when she passed, I started thinking, how could I have been more present? I should have called her more. I should have gone to visit more. But choosing to focus on those times that I wasn't present was only going to tear me apart. So I have to think about the times that I was present, that I did spend savoring a moment. Even though I wish I had come to this realization earlier, I have to be grateful that I came to this perspective at all. So even if this perspective or this realization of wanting to be in the moment is coming later, you can't go back. It's okay. You can choose to go forward with it. Even sometimes when strangers are sharing their stories with me, that happened to me at Barnes& and Noble the other day, and I start to get antsy because I have to go, I try to just stop and think, wow, they're choosing to talk to me. So I'm going to treat this moment with care, even if I have to exit the conversation. Even on the reverse side, we can feel when someone isn't fully present with us in a conversation or when part of them is elsewhere. And that doesn't mean that you have to be perfectly in the moment all of the time, noticing your surroundings the entire time. But when you can, just listen to the voice of the person speaking to you. Number 3 is noticing and narrating. Not all of us are able to experience all 5 senses, but for the senses that you do have, wherever you are, notice them. If you can, look around you. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? How do you feel? Don't ask why you feel that way just yet. Just notice. And you can even narrate the present moment in your mind. When I'm watching a movie, sometimes, you get so engrossed in the plot and so engrossed in the movie, and before you know it, it's over. And so sometimes I try to make sure I look away from the screen and I look around the room at the people watching it and the setting. And I'm listening not only to the movie, but the silence or the talking of the people that are with me. feeling what it's like to be in the same place of the presence of whoever is there. And if it's the beginning of the movie, I think, wow, I have at least a full hour of just being right here, pausing reality, watching a movie with people that are currently part of my life, in my sweatpants, at whatever age. And then I go back to focusing on the movie because I don't need to be aware the whole time. But even just a few seconds helps me to come back and appreciate the present. Number 4 is to fast forward. I think all of us have had moments of questioning ourselves. Why didn't I do that before it was too late? Why wasn't I more present in the moment and now it's past? First of all, as cliche as it is, you can't go back and change it. But if you're asking yourself that question, it means you get to choose how you're going forward, how you're going to try to notice the present moments in front of you and ahead of you. That question means that you have the capacity to care. And so don't be so harsh on yourself. But when you want to be present, fast forward and think about, how will I look at this moment in 5 years, 10 years? What are some past moments from 5 years ago? And will this moment feel like that now? Allow yourself to fast forward to think about, what will this moment feel like when it just becomes a memory? It's like getting to appreciate a memory before it becomes one. Even that question of, how will my future self look back at this, allows us to fully take in not just the happy moments, but the challenging ones. I remember it was December 2021. It was one of the hardest times of my life. And there was a moment I was sitting on my floor in my apartment. I was right outside my bedroom door. The bedroom door was open. I had a messy bun, and everything that I owned was scattered on my bed, on my carpet, all the way out the door to where I was sitting in the kitchen. It was a mess. I was hungry. My head was pounding. I had pain from my neck all the way down my spine. And I remember taking the time to notice my surroundings and to notice how empty I felt, where I was, the sight of my messy room. And that sounds sad, but I'm so glad that I did that, because now it's been 3 years and I can look back at that moment and remember exactly how I felt and where I was, because I took the time to notice. And there was a moment in there where I thought, how will my future self look back at this moment when I make it through this tough time? And now 3 years later, I vividly remember it. And that gives me this ability to feel the contrast between how I felt then and the joy I feel now, and to feel proud of how far I've come. So fast forwarding also kind of allows you to fall a little bit more in love with the process of getting where you want to go. And so, how will your future self look back at this moment right now? Number 5, before you get annoyed, is deep breaths. And I know that's cliche. However, deep breathing and mindfulness are known to be helpful practices. But in this case, I just want to share how I use deep breathing to stay present. So, whether it's a moment I want to remember, or when it's working long shifts for some part time jobs that I've done and I just need a break because it's a long day, I go to the bathroom for just a few minutes and I decide on a number of breaths. So let's say it's 3 breaths, and I focus on nothing but breathing until I've gotten to 3. So I inhale and exhale. Time slows down. I resist the urge to distract myself. And I just focus on my breath until I reach the number that I committed to. Number 6 is to capture the present intentionally. My confession is that I'm out of iCloud storage and I'm out of Google Photo storage. The amount of videos and pictures I have on my phone is insane. And I think the invention of the screenshot has ruined my chances of digital organization. But with such an easy ability now to capture so many pictures and videos, I feel like it's become harder to look back at memories when there are so many to see, or they pop up so often on my phone. And so I started doing a 1 second per day video, which was an internet trend, and I love it. I take a video every day for 1 second, and then I compile those videos at the end of the year. So I get to watch my moments from the year. And that's so, it's just really helped me to give myself credit for being in the moment more than I thought I was, and to appreciate some of the moments that I had forgotten about over the year. And I get to experience looking back at those moments with more intention. So whether it's having a separate video camera, making a 1 second video, or choosing pictures to print and put in an album, creating one way to organize specific moments that isn't just within the cluttered mess of your camera roll might help you to realize that maybe you were more present than you think. For me, this also gives me direction in deciding when to pull out my phone. Now I take fewer pictures. I take out my phone, I take my 1 second video, and then I put it away so that for the rest of the time, I just get to experience the moment that I'm in. And I've captured enough on my phone that I don't need to capture it all. Because if I put too much into capturing it all digitally, I won't fully capture the feeling of it right now. And if you're at a point in your life where things aren't going great and you don't even feel like you have enough good moments to capture, that's something to notice too. Allow yourself to recognize that so that it fuels your desire to create those moments in your life or move in a direction that will help you create those moments in your life. Number 7 is to play a song that makes you feel like you're in a movie. Last night, I listened a lot to the song Breathtaker by SYML. And for 3 minutes and 36 seconds, I ponder my past, present, and future. And I just get sucked into the moment. And it's amazing. I feel like I'm living in a montage. So pick a song and play it like you're in a movie. Lastly, number 8 is to accept that you won't be present all the time. Sometimes time is going to fly. And I would argue that you're probably more present than you give yourself credit for if you were having a good time. Or sometimes maybe you just can't even help but wander with your thoughts. And instead of taking the time to dwell on not savoring the moment before, take that time right now, right then and there, to savor the moment. Life can be busy and overwhelming and stressful, but whether you're in the middle of a joyful season or a difficult season, I really hope that some of these practices can help you stay in the present moment before it becomes a memory. So I really hope this was helpful. And if I missed anything, please feel free to share your own ways of how you stay present. I would love to know whether you put it on the Life Beyond Labels YouTube or Instagram. I think it would be awesome if we all just shared with each other ways to stay present and to stay grounded. So as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.